Thank you, UNYCC, for this opportunity to reimagine education. So what is education? Swami Vivekananda summed it up very nicely with a question. To quote him, "The education that does not help the common mass of people to equip themselves for the struggles for life, is it worth the name?" India and its people have been a force to reckon with since centuries. While Indian talent continues to thrive and lead across the world, India continues to remain in the bottom half of the most important world indices, be it the Global Hunger Index or Amartya Sen's Human Development Index. A week ago, World Bank released its latest Human Capital Index, and here too, India was ranked 115 on a 158 country base. Human Capital Index, for your interest, is a slightly different index from the others. It talks about somebody who's born today and projects how productive that person will be in 18 years from now. And there, India is ranked 115. Isn't that appalling as well as worrying? And the root cause of some of this is because of the way we educate our youngsters. Let me illustrate this with a couple of examples of NGO Pratham's Asar reports. In 2007, 40% of Standard 5 students could do simple division. In 2014, that number came to 21%, a drop of nearly 50%. 2017 report of Asar is no different. It's equally disappointing. In Standard 8, 57% of the students could not do a simple three-digit by single-digit division. This, and the report ends up concluding that the foundational skills of these students were lacking after 8 years of formal education. Most advanced economies in the world end up spending about 6% of its GDP on education. India spends between 3 and 4%. Despite the kind of money we spend, our children don't have the basic numeracy and literacy skills which they ought to have after 8 years of schooling. There are over 200 million children in primary schools today, and we have to get them ready for a highly competitive and globalized world. If India has to reap the benefit of its demographic dividend, then education is the only way out. For this, we have to simultaneously invest on two fronts. First is to leapfrog on technology, just the way we did with mobile technology over the landlines. And a lot has already been said about what digital world can do, especially in the local languages when the content is established. So I will not go into details, except to say that if we harness the digital technology well, we will be able to take personalized and good quality education into the remotest part of the country at scale. This will make our youths more relevant for the 21st century jobs and will add value to the Indian economy. Simultaneously, while we are doing this, we should also concentrate on the quality of education. Learning outcomes have always been a challenge, and we have to do what it takes to ensure that we achieve the learning outcomes we desire. This is easier said than done. The reason why I'm bringing this up as an example is because a lot has already been spoken about today in the evening as to how society and the cities and the children and the future of the country can change. But when at the ground level, when you have to implement it, it can be very complex as well as tricky. And I want to bring in the example of Kotak Education Foundation's journey, where when we started at the grassroots level, we learned it the hard way. And this is important for all the change makers to keep in mind and plan accordingly. Our dream was very simple. We wanted students to be educated so that they rise above poverty. We started not very far from here in Mumbai in the M East Ward, which is about 2 kilometers in a direction as a crow flies. M East Ward, in case some of you don't know, happens to have the highest concentration of the poor in the city. A third of the city's poor live in that little geography, which if you were to rank the population living in M East Ward, it would be ranked number 78 or 79 on the global index. So it's a highly populated, dense area, and we decided that we will, and just one other bit of information, that the Human Development Index, the HDI of that area, is 0.05. For comparison, the D ward, which happens to be Nana Chowk and Grant Road, the HDI is about 90.95, whereas this we are talking about is 0.05. And this statistic is relevant because it gives you a context within which one has to operate. We targeted the teachers of vernacular medium schools. These were non-BMC schools, and we wanted to empower them. The reason why we chose teachers, because 60% of the primary budget, the national budget, goes into teachers' salary. And that is approximately 1 to 2% of India's GDP is spent on teachers' salary. And we wanted to leverage on it. We plan to train them with latest technology and pedagogy. By the way, latest technology when we started in 2007 was not the computer for us. It was an overhead projector, which some of you may have never seen in your life. Basically, we wanted to train these teachers on everything that would engage the students and make their learning last. However straightforward it may seem, it was not. Some of our schools were within meters of world's largest dumping ground. They had carcinogenic asbestos roofs. They had open electrical wiring and leaking during monsoon. Tiny classrooms, badly lit, hardly any ventilation, very, very appalling sanitation. In fact, as of today, 2 of the schools still don't have toilets. Children have to go to community toilets and come back to class during school hours. And in midst of all this, we were grappling with how to enable our teachers who can prepare the next generation for high-paying jobs and better standard of living. We quickly learned that just focusing on teachers was not good enough. We had to have a multi-pronged approach, and on 5 fronts: students, teachers, headmasters, parents, as well as infrastructure. And unless and until we worked on all 5 fronts simultaneously, quality learning was not going to happen. As a result, we ended up with a holistic model where multiple interventions got weaved into the regular activities of our schools. So students learned differently, they did lots of things. There was gamification in the class, the learnings and the tests changed. The 21st century skills which we have spoken about today were also part of the teacher training. The headmasters were trained on team management and leadership. The parents got training on exposure, on effective parenting techniques. how to deal with adolescents, anemia, malnutrition, and the works. The schools were made safer and inviting. Classrooms were cleaner, and school infrastructure was also with sanitation and toilet. In other words, we worked on creating a nice, conducive learning environment. This multifaceted approach produced some fantastic results. Admissions have increased. Students who were at risk of dropping out are scoring in the 80s and 90s. Some of the students have got into A-grade colleges, some into engineering colleges like IIT and VJTI. Some are pursuing medicine. One has already become a doctor. It also, the spin-offs on the teachers and headmasters were also fantastic. We are convinced that this intense but holistic approach is what is required to achieve elementary education. Human capital is key to India's future, and it cannot be secured without aggressively pursuing high-quality education during these formative and elementary years. India's elementary education must evolve in the context of 21st century to ensure our youth remain relevant, gain upward mobility, and add value to India's fastest growing economy. The reimagined education on the platforms of telecom and digital technology, which we have talked about, along with holistic intervention at the grassroots level, will fundamentally transform India to the next superpower, which we all imagine. And one more thing. India needs young change-maker like you to build on this work and vision. You are the closest to the technology as well as to the students in school. Please find ways to engage them. Give your energy and your experience. The masses of students are young and impressionable. Be a role model to them. The PPP, which we talk about, public-private partnership, is not about just government institutions partnering with companies in private sector. It's about each one of us going to our neighborhood school and contributing, or joining, volunteering, or teaching in the education sector to make the difference to the education we have today. Thank you.